So big water walleye, I get a lot of questions on how do you find them, what's the approach? And right now it's fall, season's winding down, but it's the same rinse and repeat approach that we do pretty much 75–80% of the year, which is we find fish on side imaging and then we start shrinking them down, whether that's with down imaging or with live. And my personal favorite way to do it is, if you can get away with it, you mark a big school of fish. And if you find that you don't have to sit and try to beam fish and try to throw out individual fish, you're fishing a massive school of walleye, and that's what we're looking for. So I find a big school of walleye, and then judging from the size of it, I either hit spot lock and deploy live, or however I attack it after that is based upon whether there's 6 fish there or 30 fish there. If there's 30 fish there and I can spot lock and pitch to them, or do the drift mode through them, that's what I will do. So the approach is always changing, it's fluid, you have to be able to adapt how you're controlling the boat and how you're throwing to the fish based upon how many fish are actually there. If there's 2 or 3 fish there, I'm not gonna make a drift through them. I'm gonna grab the jig rod and I'm gonna pitch at those individual fish and then move on. So kind of the 1-2 punch I use is it's LakeMaster, side imaging, and then identifying how big the schools are and figuring out whether you're gonna drift through them, whether you're gonna pitch to them, or rig through them, or any of those number of things. Today, we're throwing jigs at them. So I'm looking for decent school of walleyes, and if the walleyes stay put, that's the other part. If you can mark fish and they're staying in an area, absolutely, I deploy that live technology, I stay on the fish, I watch my lure go down, I watch them eat it, and that's how I'm processing fish. But if the fish are always moving and skittish, then I'll try to side image them, I'll throw a waypoint on them and keep pitching to those fish as they move. So that's kind of my big water breakdown approach for live bait fishing or jig fishing or pitching. It's definitely not a wide open basin approach, but when the fish creep up in the spring and in the fall, that's the approach we use to find them and catch them. So mapping in particular, I really like the LakeMaster VX chip. I love shading of contours because, not just because it looks cool, it's because it takes a lot of the work out. Use your mapping to the best of your ability, whether that's doing your shallow water highlight, whether that's doing your depth offset, whether that's picking a color palette in the VX chip that really makes those fish catching spots or fish holding spots really, really pop. So again, it's not just your trolling motor settings, it's not just your side imaging, it's not just your live sonar. When you're breaking down big bodies of water, use all the arrows in your quiver, and LakeMaster's VX chip is one of those that I wouldn't give up. I really wouldn't, just because of the way you're able to fine tune the data that's getting back to you. So anyone that hasn't, experienced the VX chip or color shading or being able to have that pretty much infinite amount of adjustability in the way that you want to view your map, it's really, really cool, and it does truthfully without bending the rod itself. It really is the first part of how this process starts, is looking at your map. I would encourage people to not be scared of big water and look at what we have to attack these bodies of water, big bodies of water. We have great mapping now. We have forward-facing sonar. We have 2D chirp sonar. We have all these tools in our toolboxes. We have trolling motors that now drift for us. And now we have all these tools that big bodies of water were wind dependent, where if it's blowing 25 miles an hour, you're not gonna fish the windward side of the lake. You're gonna drive into the wind, you're gonna launch on that side of the lake and fish those areas. And once you find out the fundamentals of fishing big water, which is get out of the wind on big bodies of water because it's just dangerous, and then learn to deal and fish with the cards you were dealt. If you're dealing with a 20-mile-an-hour wind from the south, you're gonna have to fish the south end of the lake, and you're gonna have to pick those parts of the lake apart, whether that's with 2D or however you're gonna do it. So you take in the area you're gonna fish by wind, if any, and then I start looking at areas where I've fished and caught fish before by simply following my LakeMaster chip, turning on my side imaging, and once I mark a school of fish and have verified that they're the species I'm after, in this case walleye, and then I simply keep bouncing down the line looking for same and similar spots. So when you're looking at these areas, these mud areas, these sand areas, open your eyes, expand your range out as far as you can get it, and mark fish. And then once you start marking them, Then start dropping your waypoints on them and figuring out how to catch them, whether that's with jigs, rigs, and that's when you start applying those seasonal tactics. So today, for instance, when I talk about the cards you're dealt, today we have a southeast wind. It's a little bit choppy, and we're fishing kind of around a corner in here just to get sheltered a little bit. And what we're finding today is the fish are a ways off of the structure. They're kind of on a transition, and the happy medium there, what I'm seeing is the fish aren't too far away from the transition. They're not more than 200 or 300 yards off of it. Here it is, right here, like clockwork. Right there, there's a line of fish. See that? There's like 5 or 6 right in there. And I'm getting closer to the structure, and you can see a small school of walleye there. And again, there's some rock in here, and as I get closer, we'll see more and more fish. So if you're seeing that, throw jigs at that stuff. You're gonna catch them. And again, you have the hot white dots and then the shadow behind it. And I'm getting a little timber in there. But that's how easily I'm finding these fish, is get out in the boat, fire up your LakeMaster chip, start finding areas with fish in it, and then start tightening those areas up. And once you know what walleyes look like on different pieces of bottom, like rock, sand, and mud, the rest is easy. Then you just gotta start throwing jigs and bait at them and start catching fish. So those transitions have absolutely been key to finding fish today, whether that's been the edge of rock, the edge of weeds, within 50 to 100 yards off, like clockwork all day. And we didn't know that yesterday. Yesterday was a different day. The fish were on the structure. Today we got a little bit of sun. The fish have pushed off a little bit. So without further ado, let's go throw some jigs at these fish and see if we can't catch a couple. So we came around, found these fish on side imaging, and then I fine-tuned with live. You see that one swimming around in front there. And I pointed at this fish and threw at him and caught him. And that's exactly how that's supposed to work. You know, to kind of put a bow on it is, and like the approach we're using here, jig and minnow. It doesn't get any, you know, it's about as simple as it gets. But this isn't an absolute giant, but that is proof in the pudding on how you do this. We found them side imaging with VX, first of all, LakeMaster VX, turned on the side imaging and started marking these fish, and turned around, hit them with live so you can actually see the individual fish, pitch to them, and catch them. It's really, really simple. It's not just a small water approach. Like we're on big water doing the same thing. So if you guys want to get out there and put the big water game together, this is how you do it. It's pretty simple when you have all the arrows in the quiver.